Hey there, I'm Dr. Gerry Crete. Welcome to Post-Traumatic Growth. And today I have a special treat for you, Cameron Fradd. There's a phrase in trauma literature that has become almost common language. The body keeps the score. But what happens when the body isn't just keeping the score? It's rewriting the rules of your life. When issues like POTS or chronic pain, autoimmune conditions, reshape everything, your mind, your marriage, your motherhood, your faith. So today I am talking with Cameron Fradd, Catholic speaker, host of the Among the Lilies podcast, wife, mother of four, and someone whose body has been keeping the score for years. Cameron lives with POTS and endometriosis, and some other chronic illnesses. She's been to the ICU. She's spoken at Seek about suffering with grace, and she's still here, still showing up, still finding what it means to flourish when the suffering doesn't stop. This is Post-Traumatic Growth, and I'm Dr. Gerry Crete. Let's get into it. Well, hey, Cameron, so great to see you. Thank you for coming on our show today and being willing to talk today.
You're welcome. Happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. So we're talking about post-traumatic growth primarily, but you've been pretty open about your history, your struggle with chronic illness. But maybe for people who don't know you very well or your story, could you maybe share a little bit about your journey and what that has looked like for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I joke that I've always identified as a really healthy person. So I used to say I was really healthy until I had a miscarriage that went septic, and I ended up in the ICU and I almost died. And then post that, I had tons of health issues, but really looking back, like I've always had endometriosis and PCOS, and I've had a bunch of chronic autoimmune diseases and things prior, but I was able to function with them. So I'd have like a week here or there that I wouldn't be functioning, but I was able to kind of persevere through it. And I think that something happened about 8 years ago where I had a miscarriage and then went septic, and found myself in the hospital. And then I had to relearn how to walk, relearn how to do all the normal things. And when we lived in Georgia, it was like ups and downs with my health, which I know because we knew each other then. But and then when we moved to Steubenville, it was like my body just completely broke. And so within the first month of living there, I was hospitalized 3 different times for 3 completely unrelated things. And my body just got really, really bad.
So you've been struggling with that. You said like it's been 8 years ongoing.
Yeah.
And when did you realize like this, wasn't going to change soon, that it was something ongoing?
When the rheumatologist, so I think I kept having hope, like, okay, well, if I just do this right, or like when I got out of the hospital in Georgia, so 8 years ago, I was like, okay, if I get all these vitamins and minerals and I go in for these IVs, like then I can function. And then I got diagnosed with more health stuff, and it was like, okay, then just fix it. How do you fix it? And I had a rheumatologist who basically told me, no, this is your new normal. Here's a handicap pass. And what a normal person does, you can't do. So if a normal person, goes for a walk around the block, for you can do a fraction of that and then sit and rest. And then another fraction and then sit and rest. And it was actually my youngest. I remember at one point he said, he was probably 4 or 5 years old. And he said, Mom, do you remember when we used to go for walks? Like our whole family, when we all can walk? Because on bad days, I was lucky if I could sit on the porch and watch him ride his bike. I actually couldn't walk around the block with him. And that was really hard. And so that was probably 5 years ago. And I felt like, okay, no, like I am not going to just fix it all. I think I was looking for a formula to fix it. And I realized there is no formula, and this is really, really hard. And I tend to be the glass is half full and optimistic. And I'm like, we're great. Everything's fine. And my husband tends to be more, no, like look around, like this isn't good. Like you live in this reclining chair all day, every day. Like this is no life, which is hard and humbling.
Well, it really sounds like, it affected your even sense of self, like your identity, because you said, you always thought of yourself as a healthy person, even though you had some health issues,
Yeah.
but this changed your sense of who you are, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, I think it did. And I think it was, I was reading The Body Keeps the Score. And I think that's kind of what really helped me realize, oh, wait, maybe it's not just the physical things. Because up to that point, we had had friends be like, maybe there's more mental, and both Matt and I kind of laughed at it because it was like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like, because my joints were dislocating every step I took. It's like, no, 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 this is all physical stuff. There's not a mental component to it or a spiritual component. Like, we're very faithful, solid Catholics who love the Lord and have always been very involved in our church. And so it's like, we've done all the prayers, we've done all the things. There can't be, well, I didn't think that there was a mental component to it. And reading The Body Keeps the Score really helped me look at, okay, wait, maybe there is more than just the physical. And I feel like that's where I kind of was starting to look for help more in the spiritual areas for healing, not just the medical community. Like, maybe Cleveland Clinic and Mayo don't have the answers, but perhaps not being afraid to look into past pain and trauma and going down that route.
Wow, I love that. And for anyone listening, yeah, The Body Keeps the Score is a fantastic book and revolutionary, really, because it was Bessel van der Kolk was the author of that, right? And when he came out with that, I want to say that was the late 90s, or at least his research was appearing then. That changed the whole field of trauma treatment in the world of psychology. Before that, they really didn't look at the body and how the body is impacted by trauma, like childhood trauma and different kinds of trauma, and how your body is impacted in ways that you're not conscious of necessarily. So I love it that you brought that up. Did you get any particular revelations that you want to share about that and how that your
Yeah.
body and mental health connect?
So it was probably 4 years ago or 5 years ago. We were living in Steubenville, and by God's grace, we met this lovely man, Dr. Care. Matt calls him my Catholic witch doctor. He's trained as a therapist, but he's so much more. Like, he was in seminary for a long time, and his wife says he felt called to heal souls, and the Lord was calling him to heal bodies. And he's just a beautiful, beautiful, holy man. And so whenever my body would break, it'd be different ways, but Matt would be like, go to Orlando. And so this was one of those times my body completely broke. I wasn't functioning. So I got in the car and drove from Ohio to Orlando. And on the drive, I listened to the entire book. And then I normally would stay closer to the beach because I found my body would do well there. And at the time, Dr. Bob Schutz and Sister Miriam James had just come out with something on the Hallow app. I forget what it's called, but it's a beautiful, I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like a healing, I don't know, something beautiful on the Hallow
I,
app that they
I'm
did.
on the Hallow app, but I should listen to it more myself. I'm sorry.
Well, it's
We'll
really
get that.
beautiful. And
Yeah.
I think you can look up individual people, but this one was by Dr. Bob Schutz and Sister Miriam
Mm,
James. And what was really
mm,
amazing is I just kept praying, and I stayed at the water, and then I was driving in to and from this doctor. And one of the things they were leading you through, and they're like, you're walking on the sand and you're on the shores and you look out and you can see the sun rising. And like, what they're describing, I'm literally seeing because I'm walking on the beach. They're talking about a river and not the ocean. Other than that, it was the same thing. There was like, and you look out and there's only one person there, and he turns and looks at you. There's literally one dude in the water. And as Dr. Bob says, he turns and looks at you, this guy turns and looks at me, and he's like, it's Jesus. He's inviting you. And so I'm like having this whole experience walking on the beach. I didn't like go hug the guy or anything, but it was really beautiful. It was all this stuff going on in my heart. And then later that day, when I was at my doctor's appointment, Dr. Care was working on my body, and he asked me, he asked about my uterus, if I had a uterus. And I was like, no, unfortunately, I had a hysterectomy. And I started to share how, my last born almost died. Like, Peter almost died when he was little. And then I lost the two babies after that and ended up in the hospital. And something in him clicked, and he's like, wait, Cameron, I know your story. Tell me this. Are you with Samaritan Ministries? he had sent a check to us because so I was with a different healthcare sharing ministries, and he had sent a check. He's like, I know your story. He's like, tell me more. And so I'm explaining to him. And at one point he puts one of my hands on my forehead and the other on my stomach, and he's adjusting me. He's doing whatever he does. And I'm sharing what happened when Peter was a baby and was really sick in the hospital, and I don't know, and then sharing when I was really sick and I lost the baby and almost died. But I was kind of going through it without emotions. It was just very factual. And he is, I don't know what he is. He's darker complected. He has those dark, beautiful Jesus eyes, and tan skin. And so he adjusts me in a way that like all of my spine kind of pops, but then he picks me up. And so it's almost like he was like kind of holding me. I know this sounds weird, but he's looking at me and I just see tears running down his face, and something in me just like broke. And I don't know, he like heard me and like validated where I was coming from. And I immediately was like, I need to go to the bathroom. So I ran to the bathroom and bawled my eyes out. And I just was sitting in the bathroom crying. And I'm not normally a big crier. And I was like, I don't know what just happened. And there was something about him hearing my story, receiving it, but then also having like, I don't know if it's the emotional maturity or like he felt it. He felt the story and I didn't feel it. And then I went back and talked to him about it. And I was just like, what just happened? And he explained like the body keeps trauma and it stores it in different places. And he said one of the ways of releasing it is touching. He's like, that's why I had your hand on your stomach and your hand on your forehead. And he said it's a area where it releases trauma stored in the body. And I just had a really beautiful, profound experience at the chiropractor's office, which isn't what's supposed to happen, but the Lord is very good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love this connection, and you mentioned story, and here you have this story of this loss, right? This, almost losing Peter, and then having 2 miscarriages, and then an hysterectomy. It's almost like your body was holding the story of that loss, and then that incident was helpful in physically kind of releasing it. Again, showing the connection between your spirit, your mind, and your body, your physical body. It's pretty amazing. Oh, by the way, the name of the program on Hallow is called Healing Wounds that you're referring to.
Yes, good job.
Healing Wounds with Sister Miriam and Dr. Bob. All right. It's funny because, like you mentioned earlier, we were in the same town for a while, and so I knew you then, and I did know about health issues, but maybe I didn't fully know. Like I didn't know how much, because you're sharing a lot right now that some of that I wasn't fully aware of, and because you seem generally healthy and happy as a person, so I wasn't. I knew there was like periodic things you had to get help for, but the reality, I think, for a lot of people with chronic illness is it's like this invisible suffering that people don't realize what you're going through and you're living with, and you're putting on this, trying your best, it sounds like, to put up a good front. So I don't know. I wonder if you could speak to that, feeling invisible with this.
Yeah. I feel like oftentimes if you break an arm or you break a leg, it's very physical and everyone else can see it. And it's like, this is where I'm hurt. And people will avoid your arm because it's broken and it hurts. When you have autoimmune disease or chronic illness, it's not always the same thing. And it's not something that others often see, So when I was in a really bad place and I have to wear like special insoles and braces, or I'll do a lot of compression clothing, like you can kind of see it, but not really. But I can have one day where I was speaking at Seek one year. This was a few years back, probably, 4 years ago. And the first day of Seek, I was great. I would have been totally fine. But the day that was my day to speak, which was the second or third day, everything hurt. Everything was inflamed. I was so swollen, I could barely move. And I called the person that I was supposed to give the talk. And I told him, I was like, I can't walk there. I don't know how I'm going to give my talk. I'm open to giving it, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. And so they got like a little golf cart person to like give me a ride to where I was giving a talk. And it was very, very humbling because my talk was on suffering and pain and chronic illness. And I was clung to the podium the whole time. Like I couldn't stand up on my own. And then afterwards, I'm taking a line of people and I'm sitting in a chair and I'm hearing their stories and their hearts. And a lot of them have physical. I remember this one girl who, she lives her life in a wheelchair. She is confined to it. And she has other physical things that you can see that are wrong. And she's just thanking me for putting words to something that she hasn't been able to articulate. And it just was so humbling because I was like, tomorrow I may be up walking around and fine, or I may be on my bathroom floor and I can't leave. But mine's very different, and it's not consistent. And this beautiful girl was telling me, she's like, when her stuff all got really bad, I am not sure what she has. I wish I remembered, but she said when she was in the transition phase, it was the hardest. Now it's easy. It's like, here's my limitations. This is not that it's easy. I'm sure it's very hard, but she was trying to help me and be like, I know where you are. And that's really hard. In some ways it's more difficult. And I remember talking to Father Dave Pavanko. His mom has MS. And we would share, and he would say the same thing. He's like, some days mom was functioning and things were great. And then other days she couldn't walk, and it's hard because there's that element of what do others think of me? Or do they think I'm faking? There's those things that are hard from an outsider, but then there's also like questioning yourself and doubting yourself. Like, okay, surely this is, and for a long time, I thought it was mind over matter. Like if I just push through this, if I just was stronger, then I wouldn't have to deal with this. And when I was doing that, I think my body was only breaking more and I was going downhill more so. So I think giving yourself the benefit of the doubt and choosing to rest when you need to rest, and being your own advocate, especially in the medical world, but also like as Catholics in particular, we are really blessed with the power of uniting our suffering to Christ on the cross. And so choosing, like on a good day, choosing to offer it up and like this pain or this suffering, whatever it is, I unite it to Christ. And when we're able to do that, I feel like it's almost more of a superpower, and it's like it's a fast road to sanctity.
No, I love that. I speak to that often too. And even just other kinds of non-physical traumas can also, lead to that too. And I want to say more about it, but first, can I ask you, like, was there a spiritual challenge? Like a lot of times people who experience a lot of suffering, especially like what you're talking about, struggle with the relationship with God as a result, like wrestle with God. I mean, did you have that experience?
So what's funny is my prayer has always been better through suffering. So like hindsight, I did missionary work in Canada straight out of high school. So when I was 18, 19 years old, I was in Canada doing missionary work. I went from having a very active lifestyle to more sedentary and eating a lot of pierogies and frozen pizza, frozen lasagna, patoon. Is that what you call it? The potato thing with the cheese curds?
Poutine.
Poutine. There you go. Okay. So just eating very poorly. And then I stopped holding down food. And so it was like gradually that I would randomly throw up. And then it got to the point where I couldn't hold down any food. And so I was, I'm tall. I'm like 5'10" or 5'9". And I got down to 100 pounds. And I was begging the doctor to figure out what was wrong with me. And my prayer time was amazing. I was up through the night, vomiting and in excruciating pain. But I came closer to Jesus than I had ever been before. And he understood. No one else understood. Even the doctor in Canada, they thought I had an ulcer. I was on waiting lists for medication. And I remember going in one day and he's like, I figured out what's wrong with you. I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Okay, what's wrong? And he said I was bulimic. And I told him he was a beeping idiot. And I was so angry.
Wow.
And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, it's the only thing that makes sense. And I was like, I've been coming into your office for months, begging you to figure out what's wrong with me. And you think I'm making myself sick? And it was, I was so angry and just felt so unseen. And even my teammates, they're beautiful, holy people, and they love me, but they were concerned for me. So at this point, they're also kind of listening to this doctor and being like, maybe are you? And I was like, definitely not. I really want to figure out. And then I came back to the States and had more tests done in 1 week and got to the bottom of it all. Like I had all sorts of GI stuff. But I remember just feeling so close to Christ through it. There was a friar in the renewal that gave me this little image of, it's the Shroud of Turin. And it was like a little wooden block, and it's just the face of Christ. And I remember just holding it in the bathroom night after night of being so sick. And anytime I ate, my body felt like it was ripping itself apart and just trying to get the food out. And I suffered greatly in it, but I had such consolation in Christ. Like he was the only one that I felt like understood. And then also, like, no matter how much pain I was in and suffering, I knew it was still a tiny drop of what he suffered for love of us. So no, I never really, like, I'll get mad at God for sure and be like, why do you have, but at the same time I'm like, actually, I'm much better praying when I'm in pain and suffering than I am when I'm good, So if it's for my soul, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Wow. I love that faith and that just dependence on him and bringing your pain and suffering to him and relying on him. I mean, that's just beautiful that you experienced that. Now, you and your husband are fairly well known in the Catholic world. Is there anything you want to share about, how this has affected marriage, and either as challenges, but also maybe even gifts? Like what has been your marriage, anything, but only what you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. I feel like the biggest cross in our marriage is my body. And I don't like saying that. I don't like admitting that. I wish I could change it. Like, I think I'm a good wife and I'm a good mom. But I have way more limitations than I would like. And I have to, like, one of the things with I have something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it's an autoimmune disease. And they talk about spoons, and they say you only have so many spoons. So you have to prioritize, like, okay, do I want to do this? Like, you only have so many. And then once you're out, you're out. And so trying to prioritize, like, schooling the kids and doing things around the house and being there for my husband, and certain activities and certain things take all of my energy. And I'm just like, I just need to sleep now and recharge. And hopefully tomorrow morning I'll have more to give than I do now. And so it's, it's been hard. St. Francis of Assisi used to refer to his body like as something separate, which it's heretical. It's not true, but we jokingly often refer to my body as something separate. And we're like, I'm not mad at you. I love you. You're great. It's your body that is, really screwing us both over right now. And we try to laugh about it, but it's hard. Yeah. And I apologize and I feel bad about it, but then I almost like double down on it. Like, it's not my fault. I already said sorry, which causes more problems. But it's a cross for sure.
Yeah. Well, I understand, wanting to say sorry, I suppose, but at the same time, it's not like you were choosing it. It's not like you chose this cross. Yeah. So it's hard if when you feel like your body is betraying you in some way. It's very painful. Yeah. Well, in motherhood too, I imagine it's a challenge. Obviously, you've got children. I guess they're getting a little older now. They seem to grow like crazy. The last time I saw Peter, I was like, how did he grow so much taller? You have beautiful children and so much love in you. I can say this, because I've been there. You are a good mother. I've seen you be a wonderful mother and wonderful wife, and your children are joy filled. But there must be challenges, obviously, if you're dealing with this. But it sounds like your children also, in some way, like learn also something out of seeing their mother struggling with something, and bringing faith to it.
Yeah, so two things that I think of with the kids. I remember one time, I found it very exhausting just to take a shower or a bath. And I'd have to like lay down and take a nap. And there was something about holding my hands above my head that I felt like I was going to faint or pass out. So like blow drying my hair was really, really hard. And so at the time, my girls were probably, I don't know, like 8 and 12. And they started helping me brush my hair and blow dry my hair. And um, I remember just being very moved by, Mom, it's okay, we'll do it. We'd love to do it. And they would do my hair. And at the time, my hair was also falling out. And so they'd brush it and they just do it so softly. And it's like, Mom, is that okay? Or do you want me to go slower? And it was like I used to be the one to braid their hair and do their hair. And then I found myself in a spot that I needed them to do mine. And it was really humbling and I didn't like it, but it was really beautiful. It was like, okay, like my girls are so empathetic and they're so beautiful and so compassionate and they do anything for anyone else. And my sons are the same. We were at one point living at a life teen camp. And I remember one of my sons was probably around 7 or 8. And a girl, one of the missionaries told me afterwards that she was curled up in a ball and just didn't feel good. And my son's running around doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And then he stops and he looks at her and is like, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? He like rubs her back and says, are you on your period? Do you need a heating pad or a cup of tea? What can I do for you? Because at the time I was very sick when it was that time of the month. And so she's like, none of the missionary guys noticed. Even the other girls were like, do you want Tylenol? Here you go. But she's like, this 7, 8-year-old boys running around being crazy and just stopped and looked me in the eye and was like, I'm so sorry. Do you have cramps? Like, what can I get you? And rubbed her back. And she's like, I'll never forget that. It was like he saw me. He saw the pain that I was in, you know, and he probably would be mortified that I tell that story now. But I love that there's like, okay, yeah, well, they got to learn empathy in a different way, you know.
I love that. I love that because that is a sign of post-traumatic growth, right? Which is what this podcast is really about, is learning, like, how do we grow? And you just gave beautiful examples there of like growing in compassion, growing in empathy as a result of suffering. Nobody wants suffering, of course, but it's not a good in itself, but it actually can bring about more love and so on. So beautiful. That's really beautiful. I want to point out for our listeners too, like that are learning, therapists learning and so on, is systems theory is another thing at the Elijah Institute we include in the training and some understanding of. And it's the idea that if one person in a family system or any system is affected, everyone's affected, right? So the chronic illness, for example, like affects your marriage, affects your kids. It affects not just you, obviously. It even affects community. It can extend also. But it can sometimes it can be a negative, right? Of course, it's a suffering. But again, depending on the disposition, the approach to it, and everything, it could also be an opportunity for grace throughout the whole system as well. I mean, does that resonate for you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's what Father Dave was very good at letting me know, because I was afraid that I was going to ruin my kids. And he talks about his mom with such love. And I don't have MS, but I was really sick, especially when we were living in Steubenville. And I just was afraid I was going to ruin my kid's life. And like, it's not fair that I have a son that wants to go for a bike ride and I'm not strong enough to watch him go for a bike ride, you know? And he told me, he's like, he would talk about him and his brothers. He's like, we're all very functioning young men, because we had to do the laundry. We had to do the dishes. We had to cook. Like, we had to do the things that mom would have loved to have done. And she did do on good days, but on bad days, she couldn't do. And so he says a lot of his vocation is thanks to his mom, and that he learned empathy and suffering at a young age.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because I talk a lot about human flourishing, and which is not the same thing as just happiness. It's not like just all good things all the time. And in fact, if we always just focused on happiness, we could almost have a toxic positivity, right?
Yeah.
But what you're really talking about is, what does it mean to flourish even through suffering?
Yes.
Which is a redemptive kind of a suffering then. Does that also resonate?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And I think that's part of, like, when I first got diagnosed with different things, my doctors would tell me to look up support groups and different stuff. And I was very opposed to it because that was their identity. Like they are chronic illness, they are migraines, they are POTS or EDS, whatever it is, that was their identity. And I was always I think because God's so good, like I had a conversion early in life and I was aware, like, I'm a daughter of God. Like that is who I am first and foremost. Like all the other things come secondary to that. And I don't know where I'd be without my faith. And I'm so grateful for the gift of Christ. And in so many of my darkest moments, like he was there, he showed up. I remember when we were, I can't remember why I was in the hospital, but I was in the hospital and Deacon Michael, you remember Deacon Michael before he passed?
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, he was
yeah,
my spiritual director. I miss him.
yeah. He
Yeah.
showed up. Both deacons showed up. Deacon Michael and Deacon, oh, what's his name? Tall, slender.
John and James. There's a Deacon John and Deacon James.
Yes, James, I think. Anyhow, they showed up at the hospital and they brought like this beautiful um tabernacle, for lack of a better word, but they had the precious blood and the body of Christ, and they came and they did all these prayers over me, and it just was so beautiful. And so I feel like whenever I've hit a point where it's like I'm in a really low, like Christ just shows up in it. So
Mm.
it's been deacons like that, or Father Stephen came up from Florida one time when I was in the hospital. I think this is when I was I think I was still in the ICU actually, and gave me this beautiful icon of the Madonna, the Theotokos with Christ in the womb. And so Jesus
Mm.
is in the womb. And so it's Our Lady that's pregnant. And it was just this beautiful, and I had just lost a baby, and just asking Our Lady to hold my baby, asking Our Lady to be with my baby. And two things happened from that. So I'm trying to learn how to so I got put in the normal ward again, but I was in the hospital for over a month. And one day this woman came in and said something in a foreign language and got down on her knees and just in front of this icon. And she's telling me the name of it in a foreign language I don't understand. But she's like, she is right. I need to go back. I have not been to church. And she came here to my room that I'm working, that I'm cleaning. And she did this for me. So I need to go back. So thank you. And it was like this really beautiful, she, came to the States and didn't find a parish. And then this image of Our Lady, like for whatever reason, her part of the world, wherever she was from, it touched her more greatly, that it was this set. And it was just really beautiful. And then I found myself giving a talk at Hallow probably 2 years ago. And Mother Olga was giving a talk. And I was sitting by my priest friend, Father Lewis, who's beautiful and just, he's a papa to me, right? He knows my heart very well. And he's just a beautiful, holy man. And Mother Olga's giving a talk. And in it, she said so many things where I was like, whoa, like it hit me that the talk was about me. It felt like, well, before that, I prayed over her, and they had like a separate bathroom area for the speakers, and she was there and she was praying, and I said, I'm sorry. And for those of you that don't know, she's a very little woman. This Mother Olga, like maybe comes up to my chest. And so, but she's much older than me. So I'm praying over her. I asked her if she wanted prayers. I'm praying over her. And in the beginning of my prayer, it's a normal prayer. And it's me praying for, a spiritual mother. And then halfway through the prayer, it switched. And it was like I was praying over one of my little girls. And I just was like, Lord, I thank you for this sweet little girl. I thank you for your precious daughter. And she like leans into my chest. And I'm just kind of holding her like it was Avila or Kiara, like one of my own daughters. And I'm just kind of holding her, and we're praying. And she looks up at me with just like these beautiful, beautiful Jesus eyes, right? And she's like, oh, thank you so much, Cameron. She's like, this is going to mean so much to you, this talk. The Lord will show you. It's going to be lovely. And so it was like, I didn't think much of it. But then during her talk, the more she talked, and then she talked about how she was holding this baby that had the mom miscarried, and she was holding the baby. And she said, the nurses were like, we can take the baby, the baby's remains away. We'll take the baby. And she said, no, I will hold this baby as her mom fights for her life. something in me just
Mm,
broke. And
yeah.
it just was like deep down, I was like, there was multiple things leading up to that point, but this was like a cracking. And I just like it wasn't a cry, it was like a guttural type thing, you know? And so I just pour my, like lean my head onto Father Lewis, and I'm about to get up on stage, right? But I'm bawling all over. So poor Father Lewis is like covered in my tears and snot, and he's a beautiful papa figure, right? So he's just holding me and praying and going to town as I'm bawling. I'm sure the other speakers are like, wow, this is not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
But it was really beautiful, and I felt like the Lord just, like, from where I was at, from that miscarriage, I had asked Our Lady to wrap her immaculate mantle around my baby and to be with him or her, you know, and to care for them because I couldn't. And one of my names for Our Lady is Lovely Lady Dressed in Blue. And then Mother Olga is this beautiful woman dressed in blue. It's Fulton Sheen's, it's not mine, but Lovely Lady Dressed
Mm,
in Blue. And then through a lot of prayer, like it's always Our Lady in blue that, like, throughout my life, she led me to Christ, right? And it just was really beautiful. And it was like this other layer of the same wound, but like a deeper layer of healing it, you know?
yeah. No, that's beautiful. Thank you. You know, what strikes me is in that story, and really I think all of your stories, but are really beautiful examples, lived examples of not using your faith as a way to bypass your pain, but actually using your faith or integrating your faith, if you will, or bringing your faith into it,
Yeah.
because that's one thing we're trying to like get across, right? In a healthy Catholic approach to therapy would be like helping people to walk through the pain. And if their faith isn't meant to be something that just like skips over it, but like that would be a bypassing, but actually like helps them process it, which is kind of what, when you describe that like guttural, wrenching that you were experiencing, and then the cry in the other example where you're crying, we were done the adjustment or whatever, and then you were crying, like that was allowing you to process your
Yeah.
grief.
And letting me sit there where I wasn't even aware of it. Like if you had asked me questions about it before, I would have been like, yeah, no, the Lord's healed me there, where it's not
Mm,
like like I'm always a work in progress, right? Like the Lord is still healing, and there's still like wounds that need to get brought up and addressed. But in those moments, letting him, and then kind of sitting with him in the, like, a lot people are okay with Good Friday, like with the idea of Christ dying, and then we're like, okay, quick Easter, we gotta have Easter. Where it's like, no, we gotta sit in that tomb. Like that's where the
mhm,
healing happens. Like it's not fun to sit and wait. It's hard and it's brutal, but
mm,
like there's so much healing that happens between Good Friday and Easter Sunday.
yeah, yeah. And we're entering into the journey, and we're entering into Christ's story, but we're entering into our story, and we're
Yeah.
allowing our story to be transformed. And and there's an acceptance, like, of the pain. There's an acceptance of the loss, right?
Yeah.
And whatever our story is. And there's a type of therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy. It's not one I'm particularly an expert in, so I can't really talk to it, but that's what's sort of coming up for me. It's a type of therapy that does help people, secular therapy, but it does help people to like, accept loss and sit with that rather than, just try to fix everything. And there's just, how do we do that? There's another therapy of DBT. I'm just going to mention a few just for some of our listeners, is like holding two things. Dialectical behavior therapy is all about holding two things. Like on one hand, I have this great loss, and I'm allowed to feel different feelings, whether it's anger or sadness or whatever, and at the same time, I can rest in God's love and know that
Yeah.
He's taking care of me and my babies, the ones that are alive and the ones that are in His hands. Like, and you can hold both of those things,
Yeah.
and so it's just so beautiful. And thank you, Cameron. Thank you. We're going to be wrapping up soon, but in a moment. But thank you. Like, your stories are just beautiful and profound, and your faith is just inspiring. So, and I'm sorry that I know the illness is ongoing, and it's not over, right? And so you're even speaking from a place where where it's an ongoing cross. But is there anything like you wish that like therapists knew better about this from your point of view?
Yeah, I think, well, I also, your litanies of the heart was huge in helping me as well. So thank you for that and for your book.
Mm,
Yeah, I think that I don't have a lot of experience with therapists. Like I have friends that are therapists, but I don't have a lot of experience in therapy, if you would.
mm,
I feel like the Lord, I experience a lot of things. Um, Afterwards, or like when someone's like, this is what you should have gone through, I'm like, oh, I kind of did, but it wasn't the way I should have done it. Like it's like I read your
mm,
book and then I ended up praying with a different therapist and finding huge healing, but the Lord, like the Holy Spirit provided. I
mm,
I don't know that this is true, but I think maybe, and among therapists like you maybe are looking for the right formula to heal someone
mm,
or help them through. It's like if I follow this algebraic equation, then this equals healing.
mm.
I don't think that exists this side of heaven.
Right,
And I
right.
think that maybe being more aware of it, or when you're working with clients and people, yes, you can get them in a healthier place and to look at things, but to let them know that there's still going to be suffering, there's still going to be pain. I don't think you're done until you're not on this side of heaven.
Yeah.
Like on this side of heaven, like there will be no more pain and suffering once we finally reach heaven. But here on earth, we're still going through it.
Well, one thing that just sort of comes to mind too in different fields of mental health treatment and so on, like there's slightly different philosophies. So like psychiatry and a lot of psychology does sort of work from that medical model. So, we diagnose and then we treat it. The idea is we cure it, right? You've got an illness that's incurable, or who knows, right? But there's no
Yeah. Yeah.
easy answer here. So, what do you do, right? Like, whereas counseling, like marriage and family therapists, counselors, clinical social workers in general, but I would say like the counseling field is more focused on accompaniment.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
focused
Which
on
is huge.
wellness. Yeah, it's not just like, yeah, they have to use diagnoses for insurance purposes and all that, but it really is more, a lot more about, walking with someone through a transition. Sometimes it's through a major loss, or like we're talking here a chronic illness, or work through past traumas and so on. So, there are sort of different philosophies. So,
Okay.
and different therapists will come at it with different
Different
philosophies
angles.
also. So, but I love what you're saying. Like, it really does speak to what people need sometimes is just to be heard,
Yeah.
to be witnessed, to not just to fix is what I
Yeah.
think I'm
And
hearing.
I think also not relying on your own strength. I'm guilty of this too. But making sure you're getting to the sacraments, making sure you're taking your prayer. Like when you have a really hard meeting with someone and you just feel the weight of them and all their problems, for you to
Mm,
then give it to Christ, like you
right.
can't, because I think you'll just burn out, right? Like it'll weigh on you too much and you'll break, and
Yeah.
then you're no good to anyone. You can't,
Now,
yeah,
I'm
takes
now
therapy.
curious because you mentioned it. I thank you for plugging my book and my litanies, the prayers. What moves you in those? I'm just a little curious. Like what made those stand out?
Yeah, I think so. I'm very ADD. So the first time I listened to your book twice. The first time I did it in double time. It was audible, double
Mhm,
speed. I have to see the whole picture and where you're going. I like you and I trust you as a person, but I want to see your whole thing. And then
mhm,
I'm like, okay, now I'll go back and I'll go those places that you asked me to go, you know?
mm,
I think it's the same with praying the prayers. And then there's something about like the Be Thou My Vision, like that, the song, I don't know, it like awakens something deep inside my soul that I'm not aware of.
mm,
And I'm praying the prayers against having a closed heart, or a wounded heart. I don't know. There's something in it that my mind doesn't understand and I don't have the words for it, but
mm,
my spirit experiences it and is like, yes, this is good. Like I'm on the right track, right?
mm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. Thank you. Yeah, because the litanies are based on attachment theory, and the whole point, which is, won't get into right now, but it's again a psychological approach that I think is just powerful and useful. But the whole idea is to bring all of our pain, bring all of our weakness to Christ, and to grow in attachment, security with Him. It's not about the bad things necessarily. Some may go away, some may change. We may have a miracle. You never know. But even if they don't, you're securely connected with Christ is sort of the goal there. So that's great. Well, it's been just a pleasure to have you, and thank you for all that. Oh, the other thing you mentioned Be Thou My Vision. So if I can plug another thing for myself, which is terrible, but my son and I do have a channel, Pateras Agape, which means the Father's love. And so Be Thou My Vision is a song that I wrote, from the original classic, but with new verses, and we're doing all these different songs to integrate faith, mystical tradition of the church, and some aspects of human flourishing, attachment theory, Hart's work, like the internal family system. Just try to bring it together and make it something that people can actually experience rather than just read about. So I think that might be what you were getting at a little bit.
Yeah. And I also recommend getting outside to listen to it. So I love listening to it out in nature. So one of my voices of God is definitely beauty, and sitting in an environment where I can hear water in the background. I can hear all the birds, the stream. There's something about it where it's like awakening a deeper place in your heart. It's like, I'm aware here at this level that this is a beautiful environment. I see pretty flowers. I hear lovely birds. But then listening to this, it's like you almost went to an interior level in your heart that's so much deeper. And then it's hearing and seeing and experiencing. So the birds are still there, but there's a depth in their chirps and everything when you pray these prayers, and the way you guys have it to music too. It's just lovely. So I would encourage people to get outside as you listen to it and just kind of, pray through it, but then just sit with it. And it's really beautiful. I feel like, I still don't understand it, but there's a tilling of the soil in a deeper place in your heart.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, is there anything that you would like to mention that you're doing that you want to promote? Or I know you have Among the Lilies. I know you're doing retreats sometimes. What are you up to?
Yeah, probably Among the Lilies. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find that. I am not consistent in it. I'm very inconsistent in it, but I love it. I enjoy doing it. There's something, I'm going to have another Beautifully Broken retreat in 2027. I was going to do one this year, but my health is not strong enough, and we most likely have a move coming up. And so there's just too much. I can't do it now, but the summer of 2027, I can't remember if it's June or July, but it's going to be a lovely retreat. Your wife came on one that I had done last summer, and it was, really beautiful women just coming together and just taking the time to take a deep breath and pause in a beautiful environment in nature, receive all the sacraments. And it was really blessed.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thanks for what you're doing there. And I love the fact that you're pacing yourself and you're taking your good self-care where you're not going to push yourself to do too much. That, hey, I'm going to do this. God is calling me to this ministry, but it'll be 2027.
Yeah.
I like that. Good boundary.
Yeah. I'm learning. I'm trying to learn. Or Matt always says, he's like, all the ways that you don't, because people will be like, if you did this, your podcast would be more successful. And Matt's like, please leave her alone. I'm grateful for all the ways that I'm not successful. Or Matt says, the ways that I fail in my podcast, I'm succeeding in life. So it's it's not my priority. I enjoy doing it on the side, but it's a side thing. It's not a main thing.
All right. Well, Cameron, thanks again. God bless you and your family, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
The body keeps the score. Cameron's body has been keeping a very detailed one, but the score is not the whole story. What we heard today is what flourishing actually looks like. Not the absence of suffering, but integration, purpose, and showing up anyway. Relying on Christ, discovering resources you didn't know you had, and faith you didn't know you had. If your body is carrying something your mind hasn't had words for yet, sit with what you heard today. You don't have to fix anything right now. This has been Post-Traumatic Growth, and I'm Dr. Gerry Crete. Take care.